whilst a Formula One seat may be a ticket to fame and fortune, the road to F1 is anything but assured. Just ask Daniel Ricciardo, a young Aussie in the fast lane to the world's most exclusive racing club. His road has been littered with determination, self-belief and sacrifice. He and his family putting everything on the line to chase his dream.
Daniel Ricciardo, as seen on ESPN's Aussies Abroad. Jason Bennett, the reporter there, of course, an old friend of Fox Footy. And Daniel Ricciardo joins us tonight. How are you, Daniel?
Very good, Eddie.
Mate, this time next week, the first Formula One race of the year will be over. It'll be on Australian soil. It is the dream come true for you to finally be racing F1s here in Melbourne. Yeah,
it's going to be a dream come true. You know, it's to have the opening race of the season and for it to be in Australia on home soil is amazing. And you know, so many years as a kid, I've come to the race and watched it and dreamed about being here and being part of it, but never really knowing if it would be realised.
You must have been worried when Bernie Ecclestone was talking about taking the race away from Melbourne coming up in the next few years. But suddenly we've got two Australians on the grid. It's the perfect time to have the race here in Melbourne.
Definitely, definitely. You know, myself and Mark, I'm sure, are going to push hard for it to stay in Australia for as long as possible. And, I think for any driver to have a home race, it's just must be an amazing feeling, as I'm going to experience in a week's time. And I know Mark, thrives off coming here, and it's a huge event. You got your home crowd, so what more could you want?
In fact, Bernie Ecclestone was going to be a special guest with us here tonight on the show. We couldn't get him lined up with a satellite in the end. He still might be coming out to Australia, and we expect to get him either next week or the week after here on EMT. Have you met Bernie?
Just briefly. What's
it like?
He's, I basically just said, hi, nice to meet you. I'm Daniel Ricciardo, and sort of shook my hand and said,
stole your wallet?
Nice to meet you. But, he's a busy man. He's obviously running a very big organisation, so I honestly haven't spent much time with him. Let's
go back to the early days. We've got some photos here as a young boy coming through. You started in go-karts. You wanted to get into motorbikes, and your mum, like all mums, said, no, you're not riding a motorbike, but she gave you a go-kart instead.
Yeah, so just grew up loving cars, loving speed.
In Dalkeith in Perth?
Duncraig.
Right?
Yeah. So, mate, just Dad did a bit of racing when he was young, and I think maybe a bit of that got into me, through the bloodstream, and I loved any form of racing. As you said, motorbikes as well. But Mum was pretty strict on me doing any racing at all. So four wheels was a safer option, and started go-karts at 9 and progressed from there.
So how do you make the jump? How do you get overseas? How do you get a ride suddenly in the bigger races and then get plucked at 21 years of age to be driving for the junior side, if you like, of Red Bull?
Yeah, it was a big, I guess, commitment and a bit of a sacrifice. I was racing in Australia, just go-karting till I was 16, and then stayed in Perth but did some racing in Asia. But in sort of Formula cars, so a smaller version of basically, a few steps below Formula One. And from there when I was 17, decided to move to Europe, moved to Italy because that was where all the big teams were, and decided to make it happen and put everything on the line for that.
Well, here we are in Delhi. You didn't get paid last year, did you? Red Bull paid for your seat in the car in the secondary team, and that was it. Yep. Find your own food.
Yeah, it's quite a a bit of a strange journey to Formula One because it is so elite, and when you get there it can turn around very quickly, but the road to getting there is you're sort of climbing a ladder all the time, but you don't really see, let's say, the rewards till you get there and get well established.
How do you go with Mark Webber? Because in a lot of ways it's his seat that you want to steal. In many ways. I mean, I think Vettel's safe for the moment. He's just winning everything. But how's Mark been with you?
Honestly, Mark's been excellent. I'll never forget the first time I sat in a Formula One car a couple of years ago for a test. They did like a rookies test, and being in the Red Bull junior team, they gave me the test in the car, and obviously I was very nervous. And Mark got my number through one of the boys in the team and just gave me a call the night before and just sort of eased me into it and told me to enjoy it and just not to stress and be worried about too much. And from then on, he's given me his number, and he's always said if I want to call for some advice, always feel free to pick up the phone. So Little things like this, have always been really helpful. It's someone I've looked up to.
Daniel, a lot of ways AFL football is going the way, if you like, of Formula One, in that you start off as a go-kart driver. It's as pure as it gets. You jump in behind the car and away you go. The technology involved in your sport, we're seeing the pressures hitting footballers now with the tactics and the demands on them. Even though they're getting paid good money, you still have to go through it all. Do you see any similarities there? Because you trained with the West Coast Eagles over the summer for a bit of fitness. So did you notice any similarities at all?
I spent a week or a bit more with the Coasters and had a bit of fun. But to be honest, I don't see as much football as I would like overseas. So, I try and follow as much as I can and hear bits and pieces. But, at least judging from by the facilities there and the way they're going about, the training and recovery side of the sport, I see some of that in what we're doing. But, deeper in that, I'm a little bit green still. Yeah. Europe's, separated me a bit from that. But
and how was it training with the boys?
It was awesome.
Who are your mates? Who'd you go out with?
Oh, no, I was quite privileged. We, got basically from my trainer, used to work with Geelong, and he knew a few people there at West Coast, and pretty much, got in touch and asked if we could, just go there and use the facilities and wear off a few beers from Christmas, and it was really nice. So got in touch with Guy Mansell, and all the boys were there training and getting ready. So
what's the biggest thing you have to do? We know when young players come to an AFL side, they have to really put some weight on, get some strength. What do you have to do physically to get yourself up to the level to be with a Vettel or the major drivers?
It's quite, in a way, it's you're sort of juggling a fine line, because you try and put on strength and you build your endurance to last the long race, but you need a lot of neck strength and core to hold yourself in the car with all the G-forces. So you have to be strong but very lean, basically. So we're always trying not to really gain weight, but to still gain strength. So it's where diet becomes much more strict, and you really have to make the training more accurate.
Now, you didn't get paid last year. I presume you're getting a cheque this year?
A little bit.
What are you getting? Can you tell us roughly, ballpark?
Mate, I still, let's say I can buy myself a pair of jeans now. Yeah. Still not, can't buy myself a mansion yet, but, I can live comfortably.
Is that 500,000 or less?
Less
than 500?
Yeah.
The big boys, what do they get?
I'd say, definitely seven figures. Yeah. For example, like when you're talking world champion Vettel, he would definitely be on, let's say, comfortably more than 10 million.
Yeah, that's what you want, isn't it?
So, yeah, obviously these are the perks. But,
and, mate, one final one. Can you believe that this time next week it'll be run and won by somebody, but you'll be on the grid at the Australian Formula One Grand Prix?
Yeah, it does give me goosebumps. I think to look back when I was young, as I said, to see all the boys and see Mark Webber's first race here back 10 years ago.
A couple of Aussies together.
Yeah. So it's going to be special, but got to try and keep the emotions in and just use all the crowd and the pressure.
Could be a big weekend if your Eagles get up in the NAB Cup as well.
Yes, yeah. So a few things to root for next weekend.
Good on you, Daniel. We wish you all the best,
Eddie.
mate. Thank you for being on the show. A star of the future and an up-and-coming superstar in Formula One, and that is our man here, Daniel Ricciardo. Thanks, Daniel, for being with us. We're all with you next week.